It's not just cops under attack in America. It's actually law and order itself, our way of life. Freedom exists because we have rules to follow, rules that ensure a civilized society. But in Joe Biden's America, civility is absolutely gone. Chaos is nurtured, criminals are coddled, and of course, the rules are all ignored. The Democrats push anarchy now. They allow it, even nurture it to the point that the Black Lives Matter Antifa street thugs feel empowered they can threaten a sitting mayor of a major city like Portland.
We are not just challenging the idea of having Ted as a mayor. We are challenging the idea of having mayors at all.
So what they do is they long for anarchy. In this 2-minute menacing video, now being investigated by the FBI and the Portland police, the Antifa punk coward of a narrator actually threatens the life of Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, proving what dopes Antifa members really are. Mayor Ted Wheeler, may I remind all of you, actually allowed Antifa rioters to flourish in Portland for so long. In fact, he still does. Still, these Antifa dopes want his blood, apparently, literally want his blood.
If you ignore this message outright, the destruction to your precious way of life is going to escalate. Blood is already on your hands, Ted, but next time, it may just be your own.
Now think about that. That's a threat. And Twitter left that message up, that video you're watching, for 2 days. They only took it right down, finally, right before this show came to air. I'm talking 20 minutes ago. While far less threatening speech by Trump supporters is often removed immediately under the ruse that it's violent, when in fact it is mostly not violent at all. Certainly not like this video is, where the threat to a sitting mayor's life isn't even veiled.
Window smashing and riots are a necessary escalation when those in power have proven that they are unwilling to listen and have made the choice to ignore you.
So I'm sitting here thinking, it's probably an 18-year-old snot-nosed, pimple-faced video player making that video, right? Either way, I don't care who it is. These mopes must be unmasked, rooted out, and of course prosecuted. But sadly, no matter what the leaders of liberal cities like Portland claim, they are afraid to confront the anarchists. So instead, what do? You know what they do is they pander to them. It's all part of a larger problem. The left's quest to ignore violence and crime in a misguided and failed effort to appease minority communities, I guess. Like so-called bail reform, which really means no bail at all. Just let them all go. It puts not just the rioters back out on the streets, but hardcore street thugs too. And because the left's game plan includes the villainization of police, the media ignores the reality of policing. That more often than not, cops are the victims of violence. Take this story. Corporal Keith Heacock of Delmore, Delaware, beaten to death, say cops, by this man, 30-year-old Randon Wilkerson.
He will be held accountable for his heinous crimes against Corporal Heacock, against the elderly couple he viciously attacked. That's
right. She said elderly couple. Before killing Corporal Heacock, say police, they insist that he brutally beat an elderly couple, landing them both in the hospital. Thankfully, they're expected to survive. Officer Heacock's wife questioned why her husband didn't have backup. She wrote this on a social media post. Why was my husband the only officer on duty? Why was he the only officer sent to respond to that call? This is a Facebook post that she put up. My husband was beaten unconscious without any other law enforcement there to back him up. How long did he lay on the floor before help arrived? That question, folks, is still unanswered. Tiny Delmar often operates in one-officer shifts. Many rural towns do. Not because they want to, but because the war on cops is real and it's taking its toll on the applicant pool. It's very hard to hire officers now. Listen to this local news report.
usually when they have a vacant spot, they have 15 to 20 applications. Right now, they only have 4.
Quite frankly, who would want to be a police officer right now? That's the hardest thing I think that we're facing.
And that's the mayor of Delmar. And it also means that the radical anti-police loons led by the Democrat Party are culpable in the murder of Officer Hecook. You see, the environment that they created are putting officers at risk. It put Officer Hecook at risk. And in turn, it's now putting the public at risk too. And instead, the left turns criminals, for some reason, into heroes. Yes, I'll say it. Michael Brown, George Floyd, and yes, even Ma'Khia Bryan, the black teen shot and killed by a hero white cop, saving the life of a black girl she was trying to kill. All the while, the media ignores the death of Corporal Hecook and the shortage of cops. Instead, this is what we get from the media.
Ma'Khia's mine, and I want the world to know my baby was an innocent, talented, bubbly, loving teenager. She never should have been gone off this world.
Well, let me tell you this. As a father myself, I feel that mother's pain, okay? No parent should ever be faced with burying a child. But the media needs to ask a very important question. Where was the family you just watched there before Ma'Khia tried to kill her friend? Remember, Ma'Khia was in foster care. So where was that entire family? And though she may have been a loving and talented child at one point, maybe she was up until this crime, the moment before her death, on the video that I've seen, she appeared to be nothing of the sort. She was trying to stab her friend. The media needs to simply be truthful. This unconscionable assault of the truth and the war on cops that it entails must end. The safety and security of all of us, black and white, depends on it. So, how violent are these cop-hating thugs? You may remember this video of a New Mexico State trooper, Darren Jarrett, being shot by a cartel member at point-blank range. Now, it's hard for me to even look at that. That officer died on the side of the road there, what you're looking at. There's new video now being released I want to show you of a Las Cruces police officer, Adrian de la Garza, who was the first officer to approach that cop killer after he shot and killed Trooper Jarrett. I want you to watch this heroic will to fight after Officer de la Garza is shot during this shootout. Take a look. De la Garza is actually shot there. You see him fall backwards. He gets back up, and what does he do? He goes back into battle to save his own life and save the lives of who knows how many officers that were responding, and believe me, there were a lot of them, all right? All of this is important. Officers rendered aid there. He was life-flighted to a local hospital. Officer de la Garza, thankfully, is on a full road to recovery. I want to bring in now Sheriff Tom Hodgson of Bristol County, Massachusetts. Sheriff, welcome to the program. I'm sorry for what all sheriff's deputies and officers are going through across this country, but I appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Grant, thanks for having me. You know, I think you really pointed out the underlying problem that's going on right now. We have a media that's promoting this sort of racially based argument that somehow law enforcement are racist. When you think about the number of people that have been killed since 2015 to 2019, you had 3,766 people that died. 2,500 of them were white, and another 1,304 were black that were killed were killed. So this idea that somehow law enforcement is targeting, people of color is just not true. And it's what the politicians are doing to try to create this divisiveness and cause us this difficult time in recruiting people.
All right, since you brought up politicians, there is no more divisive politician than a woman by the name of Susan Rice, one of Obama's closest confidants, I'm sure Biden's too. I want you to listen to what she said to Rachel Maddow, another divisive cop hater over on MSNBC. Take a listen.
It's absolutely urgent that we get real policing reform, meaningful policing reform, legislation like that in George Floyd's name through the House, as it has been, and now through the Senate. Every day, Rachel, you turn on your television and somebody else is being shot and killed on our streets, often by police.
Yeah, every day you turn on your television locally, you never see it nationally, but often police officers are being shot and killed. They ignore all that, and I'm tired, Sheriff, of this idea of police reform. I think you operate at a near perfect statistic when you look at all of the interactions, millions of them, 60 million a year across this country.
Well, you're right, and nothing should surprise us about what Susan Rice just said, because I can remember back when Obama was in and Biden, the situation with Michael Brown and Ferguson. We confronted, myself and the chiefs of police, confronted Eric Holder at that time and said, you're causing police officers to hesitate when they shouldn't hesitate. You're suggesting that situation was racially motivated when, in fact, we found out it had nothing to do with that. And the officer did exactly what he was trained to do and should have done, given the level of threat that he was facing. So this is an orchestrated attempt by not only people like Susan Rice, but also by, of course, the Biden administration, who are really and truly undermining law enforcement to a point where cops don't want to be cops anymore. They don't want to give up their homes. They don't want to lose everything they've had because we have the media and we have these politicians who are trying to suggest that somehow law enforcement is the problem, when in fact all we're doing is enforcing the laws that preserve our democracy and safety in our communities.
And Sheriff, that's why it's so hard for so many departments across the country to hire officers. We saw Officer or Deputy Corporal Hecook, that was shot and killed. One officer on duty. Who knows how long it took someone to get him some help there. But I know Stinchfield's Army, all the viewers of this program, has your backs out there. Sir, a big thumbs up from all of us. Thank you.
Well, if I could, Grant, just tell you that we're mobilizing sheriffs across the country and our citizens across the country to join us on protectamericanow.com. They should go there, and they're going to be able to find out exactly what we're doing to keep our community safe and fight back on this.
Absolutely. ProtectAmerica.com. We got it, Sheriff. Thank you.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.